I'm Jim Jessup, Janice's opponent here. Strangely, Janice and I have very similar backgrounds. I grew up not in the UP, but I grew up in Southeast Michigan, the Detroit area. I moved to Marquette in 1984. Have 4 kids, 3 of my own and 1 stepchild. And my stepdaughter lives in Ontonagon. I have 1 grandchild, 6-year-old. My wife is from Ontonagon, and she grew up and raised here. And she started in Milwaukee here, and then Marquette, where we met, and we came back here. I've been prosecuting an attorney for 8 years, or almost 8 years, 8 years in February. Prior to that, I started my practice in the Detroit area, and one of my very first cases was in the juvenile court case down there, and I'm sure Janice was down there too. That's a totally different system when you're in Detroit, and I just remember it's an image that will never, it haunts me to this day. Going into the lockup with the juvenile individual, and they have stainless steel benches, and I got ready to sit down on the bench with my client, and I realized the bench was kind of moving, and just told me what kind of situation kids there were living in. And that's when I started doing things with kids, trying to get involved, because these kids were disadvantaged. When I got to Marquette, I was fortunate enough to be part of the organizing board for the Upper Peninsula Children's Museum. I've served there for about 7 years, doing things with the Children's Museum, getting that developed in Marquette. And one of the things that we really concentrated back then was, it's not just a Marquette entity, it's the Upper Peninsula. We're trying to get groups from all over the UP to come there and participate and enjoy the museum. So I did that for about 7 years, I guess. I was in a firm, one of the larger firms in Marquette, and then in 1992 started my own individual practice. And about 14, 15 years ago, I opened a satellite office here in Ontonagon, in the village. And I was up on the First National Bank building and tried to maintain office hours on a regular basis, but we're a small community. And that became by appointment only because people weren't around. But I served as United States Bankruptcy Trustee, was appointed and served in the Marquette Bankruptcy Court for 3 years as bankruptcy trustee. Had a lot of financial dealings with banks and so forth, represented banks. I was village attorney for Ontonagon for a year or two, probably about 2 years, doing some of their legal work and some of the original ordinance revisions that they were going through at that time. The reason I want to be probate judge is just my involvement in the community, what I've been doing, what I've worked at, and it's all geared toward kids. Things that I like to do. I sing. I founded the gospel choir, but part of that is to get kids involved. I like to get kids to come and participate in the gospel choir, and to, if there's the youth band at Heritage House, got them involved. Try to get people involved. One of the primary things for the probate court is the juvenile justice system. We have very, very limited resources in Ontonagon, and that's unfortunate. If we were in a bigger community, we'd have a lot more available to us that we could utilize. Great Start is one of those wonderful things that helps get to a point where Janice and I don't have to see kids. If we do what we're supposed to do as parents at the formative ages, then they don't show up into the system, which is what everybody wants. But unfortunately, there are cracks. One of the things that I just read recently is a quote, it's actually from the Bible, but it says, everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. Everything is permissible, but not everything is constructive. And unfortunately, what I've seen over the years of practicing in probate court and so forth with our kids, which are really important, is that kids are given carte blanche to do what they want to do. And they don't understand there's limits that need to be set. And unfortunately, when they get into the probate system, the court and those of us who deal in the court system, judicial system, we have to set those limits. We have to be able to take the resources we have with those limits and develop kids who can be constructive, that can be beneficial, and know how to say no to themselves and to their peers. And a lot of things, that we have a wonderful support system in the court with the juvenile officer, family support group, and all the other areas, the DHS and things like that, all have inner workings. Sometimes they function really great, and sometimes they don't. And the thing that I see most is, in terms of what is not accomplished, is kids come in and we give them processes to develop and learn. They go home and it gets thrown out. The parents don't support what the courts are doing, what the benefits that we have available to us. I want to be able to somehow change that. I want to be able to educate parents so that parents can bring up kids that are responsible. And that's something we need to do and continue to do in the probate system. It's important to develop caring, responsible kids. And the wonderful thing is that by and large, the community does a very, very good job about it. What I love doing is when we do the baccalaureate for the Altonaga High School, and I look at the list of kids that are there that are graduating, and I go down the list and I don't know hardly any of them. I love it. And that means they haven't come through on my desk in some fashion. And some years are better than others. Some years I know 1 or 2. Some years I know 6 or 7. I like it when I don't know them. And that means somehow or another we're doing a good job, but we need to do a better job. And that's what I think that I want to do, what I want to be able to do, is do a better job in educating people, educating our kids, so they can become responsible. Sometimes it doesn't happen the way we want it to happen. But we have to be able to develop with the resources. And if these folks can figure out how to get the money back flowing through the state, and we get the resources again, then we can do it. Wonderful. Let's utilize them and do things. The OK team, things like that help. Things that we do with our kids, that we do, all help. And that's what a probate judge can do. That's what I want to do, and that's why I'm running for the job. Thank you.